I don't know if he could even touch the rim.
What's up, ATG fam? We are about to go on one heck of a journey together. You know my story. It's arguably the greatest change in speed and jumping that anyone's ever made after college. I don't get any awards for it, and I share with you everything I know. Then I keep it the lowest price on earth to coach your form. So good news for everyone involved. Whether it's the best case or this or that, doesn't matter. It's up there as one of the greatest genetic changes someone has made to speed and jumping. So let's look exactly why that is. The big focus in exercise is hip extension, and for good reason. That's your power. The problem that's being overlooked is that athleticism is a long-term pursuit. And however hard your hip can extend then means more force into your ankles and knees. So I want you to think of your athleticism, and we're just talking about the lower body right now. I want you to think of it in terms of 6 parts, not one part, 6 parts, because yes, your hip extension goes like that, but the number one difference between regular humans and elite sprinters has been found to be the hip flexors. So your hip can extend, it can also flex. Then whatever power that can put out is going to result in more power, more speed. Now when you go to slow down in sports, more pressure on your knee. So your knee also has knee extension and it has knee flexion. So some people, myself included, jacked up our deadlifts and then actually jumped lower when trying to jump off one foot, because now trying to jump off one foot, my hip extension was stronger, but my knee flexion wasn't, my ankles weren't. So now I actually couldn't even handle my own power, causing myself knee pain, knee surgeries, shin splints, because then your ankle as well has ankle flexion and then ankle extension. So it starts here. The stronger you are here, the better. There's no downside, okay? And then the stronger you are there, and then the stronger you are on both sides of your knee, the better, okay? There's no downside. A downside could be from knee to ankle, but not from ankle to knee. And a downside could be from hip to knee, but not from knee to hip. So, sorry, there's a plane going overhead, but we're going on a journey right now. So, hip extension is where all the focus is. But where are all the other cases like me? We don't know of a single case who's made as great of a change after college, meaning after being fully grown, fully, tried all the basic shit. So that was my secret to success. That's what Knee Ability Zero does. It starts to rebuild you from the ankle, then the knee. But now today we're talking about the hip. We're gonna go all the way to maximum expression of the hip in a 4th program that is coming out in 2021. And you're gonna see exactly why. I gotta get this shit done under 15 minutes. I think that's all I get for Instagram. So you get it, I reworked from the ground up. This is a huge breakthrough. Most knee success stories ever, greatest athletic change ever. So let's look exactly at the hip now. So I'm at 42. I reworked this thing down to Knee Ability Zero, then dense strength where you get to add 5% at a time, then standards where now we're measuring all 6 of these functions in relation to each other at measurable standards, thereby creating so many success stories for others. Anybody can completely rewire your genetics by going through zero, then dense strength, then standards with measurable accuracy. But where do you go from there? How do you maximally strengthen the hip? All right, let's fly through this. In Knee Ability Zero, all we're doing for the hip is we're focusing on lengthening the hip with the ATG split squat. So we're lengthening, and this is putting load and strengthening it in that stretch position. We're opening up those hip flexors so we can even express our hips to the fullest. And we're working, you can start out as far as you need. We're working on being able to straighten. We want the range, the tighter. So theoretically, let's say you were so stiff, you wouldn't be able to get in and train your posterior chain. So it starts here, alternating sides, and then over time, we want palms flat right in front of your toes, and we want to be able to flex that quad, okay? Shirt's coming off so we can see these angles. So right here, if we can now flex that quad, we can now access this. So from zero, so those are the goals of zero. From zero, we're now getting on our slant boards. We actually start working calf raises to loosen up and strengthen here, and we load up to an empty bar where we want to get that bar, this thing's a little bit in my way, but we want to get that bar to the floor. So most people are really weak. There's a muscle behind your knee. So if the calves are tight, and you're weak behind your knee, again, the hip extension strength might actually cause even further knee harm, further shin splints, things like that. So in dense strength, we're getting to that capability, and this is half my weight, and we're trying to get to half body weight, 40 reps in 5 minutes on a seated good morning. Now you're gonna see the angle here. I think it'll show the angle. So my ankles are just in front of my knees. Notice my back, and I'm getting my abs to the bench. You see that? So now I can access my glutes. I can access my upper hamstrings. I can access my back greater than if I didn't have that mobility. So now you start to make more gains on that. And the third thing we're doing in dense, is we're working on the way down of a Nordic. So we're here, we're working on this control down, right there. Okay? So now let's look at where we're at. Boom, we've got, with dense, now we've got range and strength behind the knee. We have that full range to dig into the glutes and be able to access those glutes, and our back is protected. Think about every squat or deadlift that you're tight here. Boom, we know the science that F's your back if your glutes are tight. The seated good morning, what exercise brings your glute, your torso and your thigh to as great of a range? Zero. It's the greatest closing range of any exercise for your hip extension. So this is all laying the foundation. I set up all my weights here. So now I'm gonna load this to my own body weight. So now as we get into standards, we start working the Romanian deadlift. And you'll see the range that you have. All right. Look, you might want to watch out. All right, let's get this out of the way. Okay, now let's look at the range just from what we've done already. So a strict Romanian deadlift means the knee is behind the ankle in the bottom position. There we go. So knee is going to be behind ankle, and lower back is not going to round. So look at this. I now have greater access from what I just did in dense to dig into my hamstrings. And we have a standard, okay? Body weight is all I want you going up to. Dominating body weight is what I want you going up to in standard. But for every standard, there's a world-class mark. So if you want to be a rock climber, yeah, you don't need more than body weight. But if you want to be an elite sprinter, okay, now you would start okay, I'm showing you a body weight, but you would start rebuilding one side at a time. So I'd want you getting to where you can dominate body weight one side at a time with the same form qualifications. And your Nordic now, we start tapping into the fast twitch fibers. So the Nordic now, we're still fighting the way down, but the way up becomes a strict test. The strict test I found for Nordic is abs come off the bench. Oh, I forgot there's no weight up there. See a timer. Okay, got 6 more minutes. There's some weight on there. All right. Abs come off the bench, because if you flex with the knee, look, you're not actually pulling your own weight yet because the chest is still there. Abs off the bench, pull, then pull. And then we're still fighting down. So this is the standard. Standards don't come from me. The funny thing is, my gains were made off my body and off hundreds of others in my gym, and seeing what do the fast guys do that the slow guys can't. That took me like 2 years to progress to, and we actually have more strategic progressions to it, so you can progress now much, much faster than it took me. But you see my point. I found fast guys with no training. I've tested a lot of the freakiest dunkers and stuff like that. They can all do that with no training, and it took me 2 years. You see what I'm saying? Now I can do it. Okay, common sense. All right. So, what have we covered so far? 0. We can access these ranges in 0. Okay, we've got that hip flexor length. We're even building in 0. We're causing internal adaptation in the knee so that even when we get to doing something like this, you know, we do it with padding, but the point is it's very comfortable on the knees because we've built up some internal adaptation. So, this all brings me to, with my last 4.5 minutes, this all brings me to now genetic potential. How am I now gonna go from 42 to 50? All right, let's look at this. Let me get this other bar out of the way. Genetic potential program breaks into 2 phases. Eccentric phase, what's the maximum bulletproofing way to train the way down? And then next phase, what's the maximum bulletproofing way to train the way up? So the way down, like theoretically, what you could handle down would predict how bulletproof you are, but what you can express is then how fast you run, how high you jump. So let's get this back out here. Gotta watch my feet. And once we get into stuff like this, I like to wear straps because I'm trying to focus on the muscles involved. So, with the ranges that we now have, and go ahead and look up Tom Platz. So, greatest lower body in bodybuilding history had the greatest range of motion in bodybuilding history. He could access these ranges. He bulletproofed himself. And now people publish articles falsely showing these ranges he did, saying don't do that. Guess what? He's in his 60s with incredible health. He can still drop down into a squat with perfect mobility in his 60s. Now, I'm using the straps so I can focus on the lift at hand. Now I'm gonna show you something in terms of a deadlift. So if we get in here and we pick it up, now notice on the way down, fighting, okay? But what's the problem with this? The problem is that I could do more up here than I can do down there. So this is where the band comes in. So the band, with the band over the bar, all right, now this will be interesting. So this is for phase 1 in genetic potential, okay? So I've earned my way to this. I'm bulletproof, and my ankles and knees and Achilles tendons and patellar tendons can handle whatever new hip force I build. So notice already, even on a deep deadlift, I can get really good range. Now that was much tougher. Now I was able to handle that, so I would be able to increase weight. But now let's look at something, okay? So that would be the first stage, is you're not seeing how much weight you can lift up, you're seeing how much weight you can control down. That's why this, we're adding the quads to assist getting up. Now we're fighting down. Now, okay, now we would fully express the ability of our hips in phase 2 of genetic potential program, and that would represent one of 6 zones. That would represent 6 weeks building the eccentric and then 6 weeks building the concentric for hip extension. The same would go for hip flexion. The same would go for knee extension with strategic exercises that haven't even existed yet. The same would go for knee flexion. I'll give you one example of that because we got a few seconds left. All right. So this would represent phase 1. Phase 1, in genetic. Fuck. Don't have my weight again. See what I can do. Anyways, last few seconds, you can see basically I could fight with this extra load, push back up.